You guys ready? Rob, do you have more stuff to do over there? Or Chris, do you have more stuff to do over there to be ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. 6:32. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the December 19th. I'm gonna have Chris read the hybrid meeting, or Jennifer can read it, or somebody.
Either or. All right. Thank you. Okay. The meeting of the Essex Junction Development Review Board will now come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting held both at 2 Lincoln Street and on Zoom. Because there are many technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures that the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or of the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by using the chat feature on Zoom or by emailing cun@essexjunction.org. And in the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting, if necessary, to January 18th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at 2 Lincoln Street, Essex Junction. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. As required by the open meeting law, let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance of all members participating in the meeting and those members attending remotely identify themselves to ensure that they can hear and be heard throughout the meeting, if necessary, I guess.
Yes, it is necessary because Roberts is
Okay.
online.
All right.
So Robert's online. Anyone else online? Do we have a 4 or 5 tonight?
It appears that we have 4. Is Dylan around? There's no Dylan on Zoom.
All right.
Oh.
Works better that way.
Robert, let's just make sure your sound is working. Can you just indicate that you're here?
Rob is here.
Excellent.
Nice. Okay, so are there any additions or amendments to the agenda tonight, Chris or Jennifer?
I don't think we have any changes.
No.
Okay.
None.
Item 2, public to be heard. This is for members of the audience or online that want to speak to an item that is not on the agenda tonight. Is there anybody wishing to speak tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to minutes. So we had 2 sets of minutes. I had no objections to any of the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the last 2 sets of minutes? And just so everybody knows, there was no actual business conducted at the last 2 meetings because the item that was supposed to be heard was tabled. So does anybody have any comments? Oh, I need a motion.
Motion to approve the October and November meeting minutes.
Thank you, Maggie. Second.
That's second.
Awesome. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes as issued? Aye.
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 All right, since there's only 4, they carry unanimously. Thank you. Public hearing number 1, administrative appeal. Appeal of administrative officer's notice of violation at 8 Taft Street in the R1 district by Jason Struthers, owner. I'm not sure exactly what the format for this is, but I guess what I should really do is swear in anybody who wants to speak tonight about any of the topics. So anybody who wants to speak, raise your right hand and Answer I do after I read this. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
I do.
You. And online, how does that work, Chris? Do they just they're sworn in?
They have
They have this.
participated or they just did so.
All right, good. Moving on. So we have an appeal. There's a staff report. Does somebody make a presentation like a regular application? You want to walk people through this, Chris, or does the appellant make a statement, or how does this go?
So, I mean, I can give a little bit of introduction as to what this appeal is about. So at the September 21st Development Review Board hearing on the Administrative Officer's zoning enforcement decision at 8 Taft Street, the DRB concluded that the city may enforce its land development code against Mr. Struthers with regards to his farming activities, specifically raising ducks. So this decision is memorialized in the findings of fact and decision that was signed by the Development Review Board members on October 6th. So staff had noticed that the resident at 8 Taft Street, Jason Struthers, has continued to raise ducks on the property since the decision, despite receiving a letter from the Assistant Zoning Administrator requesting compliance, which was dated November 6th, 2023. So on November 20th, the Administrative Officer, who is me, Christopher Ewan, issued Mr. Struthers an official notice of violation pursuant to 24 VSA 4451. This notice of violation enables the city to initiate enforcement efforts against Mr. Struthers with fines of up to $200 per day if the violation continues. I will note that the timing and decisions regarding the city's pursuit of actual enforcement and fines is something that is decided by the city council in conjunction with the city manager. So over here, where the job of the Development Review Board is just to interpret the law. So yeah, that's where we are today. This is an appeal of the notice of violation filed by Mr. Struthers' attorney. Is there anything else, any other background you need?
No, I had 4 or 5 comments and questions myself, but should I just go ahead with those?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
One, the violation of appears to be still in, we're still in violation. We were in violation before the state showed up to say, we think you might have a farm. We were in violation after that. We've issued our findings at our last meeting, and that's been appealed. So I'm wondering how the appeal process mentioned in this, where it's going already. Something is pending before the Superior Court Environmental Division, and the notice here indicates that kind of supersedes whatever we're doing. So I'm just wondering how that really plays out.
So that's correct. There are appeals from both parties right now. Mr. Struthers has appealed the city's decision to the environmental court, and Mr. Patnos has done that as well for on the opposing side. We've got. I think the Mr. Struthers has his attorneys online right now. If you'd like to hear from any of them, they're available.
Well, I guess my point is, if it's true that whatever the outcome is dependent on the courts, because we have a part to play in this, but we're only a stepping stone. I would be tempted to allow the courts to make their ruling before we change our minds. But I don't see any new evidence in the case for us. I feel like our role is to continue to say we told you what we thought the first time, and we still feel that way. So that's how I find this. The only I guess moderating thought I have is I think they bring up a good point about the ducts, which is the disposition of the ducts. If we say, if they actually comply with the violation notice and do something with the ducts, seems kind of final, and it'd be hard to come back from that. So I'm a little sensitive to that being a interesting plight for the ducts, that if we just wait till the environmental court makes their ruling, then we either have, it's okay or it's not okay. So I'm a little swayed by that, but on the other hand, I don't find any reason to change my mind about our particular position at this point. So what does the rest of the board feel?
I feel like we should uphold our decision.
Right. So that's the
That's-
part we play,
yeah.
and then whatever happens to the ducks,
Yeah, that's.
I'm not sure I want all the ducks to disappear, except if they're going somewhere where they're okay, like they could
Yeah,
go on
I feel
to
like they can.
and the other, there was a factual, I think, misstatement in the document submitted, which says that there was no, or that the agriculture was prohibited in all the zoning districts, and that's not actually true. It's allowed in the agricultural districts. So, the fact that whole farming operation could exist somewhere else legally inside the city, just not in R1. So I just don't know how to make that correction. It's not my testimony that this is the notice, but that's my testimony that that's how our zoning ordinance says. So anyway, so I'm in favor of upholding our position. All things, I don't know what to do with the rest of it. Right? So I don't know that we need that. I don't know what testimony happens. I don't know who else we need to hear from. I'm not inclined to, waste a lot of time on everybody's behalf if the city's going to uphold its previous decision, which I see no reason to overturn.
I mean, I think this can be treated like other development review board items where members of the public who would like to make public comments generally gets the time to do so.
And what's our limit on speaking? Everybody gets at least 2 or 3 minutes, but so we can all get through this without being here all night.
That's up to you.
No filibusters, can't repeat yourself, that kind of thing. All right, so those are the rules. I will open it to the members of the public that are here on the floor tonight, and then we'll go to the screen. Yes, sir. Say your name for the record. And
Come up to the.
Yeah.
I think you need to come up to the chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Can you sit at the
Chair of
The-
right here?
Yeah.
Microphone?
Mr. Murphy, what can I do for you?
I'm here representing the landowner, Mr. Struthers, and I think I agree with you that there's not much to be said tonight. We continue to disagree with the city on its interpretation of its ordinance. It is currently before the environmental court, and the environmental court will make a decision on whether the city has that authority or not. And in the interim, I'm not sure if your council has shared with you the fact that there's actually that the city has entered into a stipulation that they would not file an enforcement complaint until the court made a decision or until March 15th if the court hasn't made a decision by that point. So I think tonight, the only reason for this hearing is for if the board wants to uphold the notice of violation, then we will appeal it to the environmental court, and it'll be heard at the same time as the current appeal. But I don't think we need to waste any time on testimony. It's still a legal issue. The legal issue is, does the town have the authority to regulate farming or not? And we're all waiting for the environmental court to make that determination. And as we said, we think that legally, while it's pending before the environmental court, that the city doesn't actually have jurisdiction, but we're certainly willing to let you go ahead, uphold your notice of violation, and then we'll appeal it, and it'll all be back in the environmental court.
Very good. Thank you. That clarifies a lot. All right. We're going to listen to a little testimony and then hopefully move on.
Yeah, I'd like to first inform the group and so on that I am a farmer. I own a 110-acre property in Westford, in addition to my ownership of a property on Taft Street. And I have a bit of experience with the Department of Agriculture. And I also have some experience with the environmental court. So I'll share with you what I think you need to do. I'm not convinced that the property itself has ever been determined by the Department of Agriculture to be an agricultural property. There are two rules. Are the things that he's doing qualify as agricultural activities? But before you can perform agricultural activities, you have to have a property that's designated as an agricultural property. In order to have that done, that determination is supposed to be made before the farming operation actually begins. And the process itself involves the town zoning people, and it involves input from the people who are in the proximity of the area. The agricultural regulations themselves are relatively complex, and I'm not going to speak to all of them. But I would ask that this group that work with the Department of Agriculture, take your questions into them and get their input, which will be very valuable in taking this case forward if you have to go to the court. I have found in the past the Department of Agriculture does not flow out with information very readily, but I would make an effort to pin them down. The farm determinations that he has alluded to, I'm not sure that he has earned $2,000. If he has not, that's perjury, because he had to certify that. In order to qualify as an agricultural operation, he has to, on his tax forms, include a 1040F income tax form, which is a very, it's a separate thing from everything else, but in order to qualify as a farm, he's got to pay taxes as a farmer would, and so on. I think before this goes before the environmental court, that all of the answers here be checked. Did he earn $2,000? If you're in an agricultural business, you have to have receipts, and your taxes have to reflect what you earned. There are many more qualifying issues as to whether or not a farm property is a farm property, and what you have in front of you doesn't cut it. There's much more. For instance, he has to go to school to study matters related to wastewater. that's qualified. As a small farm, he has to recertify on an annual basis. I don't know that anything like that has happened. The person who owns the property we're talking about, I consider a friend. I find it very difficult to come to you with this kind of testimony, but I don't want to wind up living on a property that has pigs next to me, and I wouldn't want to live on a property that has the smell of manure from the ducks and the noise of the ducks. It significantly diminishes the value of the property. And I do not believe that the town, I'm trying to think of the term, administrator who's responsible, was in any way ever consulted before the agricultural operations began to take place. There are all kinds of things like offsets that have to be considered, not only for the structures have to be determined as agricultural. Well, I guess I just about got to the end.
Thank you. We're not sure about any of that either, so I'm
Yeah.
waiting to see what happens in court.
Right.
But
There are considerations with regard to where manure and so on can be stored, and there are specific offsets for that. I don't know if the town has any information on that. Maybe you do. I'm coming into this late. I apologize. And if I've covered something that you've already covered, forgive me, please.
we have a much simpler thought process, which is it's not allowed in our zoning district for that zoning district, so it shouldn't be there.
Right.
Whatever the state came and did, it happened after it was illegal.
Right.
So it doesn't
You're
have any reason to be there. We think it should be gone.
You're absolutely correct.
We're
In order,
sticking to the guns.
in order for that property to be determined an agricultural property, it first has to, you first have to look at the things that are conducted on it. But then there has to be a form submitted for the determination of an agricultural property. And the town has to be involved, and the people living next door have to be involved. I think he's in a situation where a order of cease and desist, which I think you've already done, is in order.
Awesome. Thank
Did
you.
we get your name?
Ron Fry.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the?
Mr. Chair, can we ask the witness to just identify where he lives and how it relates to the location of Mr. Struthers' property, just for the record?
I live on 16 Taft Street, about 3 properties down from the property involved.
Thank you.
Down the road, there may be other requests that will involve whether or not agricultural activities can take place. And down the road, I'm afraid that my property could be pulled into the situation.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience here? Yes, sir. Hey.
Stephen Willie Padnos at 6 Taft Street next door. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. I think there's a little bit, so a couple of things, details here. The issue before the environmental court, where both Mr. Struthers and we have appealed, because it was a split decision, that's actually for the DRB decision, not for the notice of violation. So it's a silly hair to split, but the notice is not before the environmental court. The decision that enforcement should happen for agriculture and shouldn't for cannabis, those are before the environmental court. Yeah, sorry, I'm an engineer. We split hairs too. So
Yeah.
So actually the stipulation that Mr. Murphy referred to, I believe it hasn't been accepted by the court yet. It's proposed. It was a proposal that was drawn up between the city and Mr. Struthers' attorneys, although mine, I'm not sure that our input was considered. We had actually proposed a similar stipulation. So the thing about that is that the environmental court, they may issue an order. They may agree to that stipulation, at which point the city, through Chris and Regina, the manager, would choose to schedule enforcement as they schedule it, as you said, Chris. But this, I think, as pretty much everyone has said, your decision is still, I think, the same because the facts haven't changed. The one fact that has changed is that now apparently there are about 50 ducks instead of being about 15 or so a year ago and maybe 30 a few months ago. That number doesn't come from me counting. That comes from another filing with the Superior Court. So, this, instead of slowing down and realizing that there's a conflict, there's litigation, or that there is something happening, and kind of slowing down to see where things go, Mr. Struthers has decided to increase his operation from, 1 dozen to 4 dozen ducks, from about 20 cannabis plants to about 100. And now the ducks which he raises for meat and eggs, again, according to a stipulation, or excuse me, according to a statement to the court, these are farm animals. They're not pets. And I agree that it would cause harm. And so I'm not, I feel for the ducks and for the impact that destroying them would have. So I can accept, a delay. But as has been pointed out, this has been going on for 4 years. And Mr. Struthers first asked for a variance, recognizing, which implies that he recognized that he was in violation in March of 2022. It's been nearly 2 years. And at that time, he said he needed about 2 years to move. He just wanted a temporary extension, basically, or temporary permission so that he could move to a place where farming is allowed. So it seems like it's about time for that to happen.
And it sounds like something's happening by March or in March, which I'm sure isn't soon enough for some people.
Yeah.
I don't know it feels like my hands are somewhat tied. So I'm going to let the courts play out. I'd like to make our determination and findings and move on because I don't think we can do anything until the court, until somebody tells me I can, and I'm just going to continue to say that it's not supposed to be here. It's not allowed in this zoning district. It is allowed in another zoning district. Let's move on. All right. So anyone want to make a motion?
I'll do it. I'll make the motion. Yeah, girl. I motion that the Development Review Board uphold the administrative officer's notice of violation for the unlawful condition of property on 8 Taft Street issued on November 20th, 2023.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we appreciate the testimony from everyone on this matter. It's complicated. It's a pretty interesting situation. There are lots of lawyers and people that are need to sort out before the rest of us get to continue on again. So let them do their thing. We'll keep moving on. Item 2.
Thank you and have a good holiday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item 2 tonight, public hearings, final plan for a 2-lot subdivision. Lot 1 to retain existing single-family dwelling, Lot 2 to be a single lot at 2 River Street in the R2 district. Is the applicant here, and would you like to come up and present? How are you, Brian?
Good. How are you, John?
But on mic. Provide your name, and you already testified that you'll under oath and all that. So go ahead, but why don't you just state your name and so forth.
Okay. Brian Courier, O'Leary Burke Civil Associates.
Your name, Lou?
So we're back after a couple continuance requests. Thank you very much to the city staff and the board for granting those requests. We had some health issues in the office that were hampering getting the plans turned back around after the engineer's comments. So the proposal in front of you tonight is very similar to the sketch plan approval. It's essentially a 3/10 of an acre existing developed lot in the R2 district. We're proposing a simple 2-lot subdivision, both lots, lot 1 of 7,500 square feet. Minimum lot size in the district is 75. And lot 2, just over 8,700 square feet. Without a proposal in front of you tonight, a single family or duplex could be pulled with a simple zoning permit. Anything more than that would need to come back to you for a site plan review. So we have provided a plat and a site plan. We've answered the engineer's comments. Would you like me to jump into the staff report, John, or would you like?
I didn't see a whole lot in the staff report that requires comment. I think we got the basics.
Yeah.
Are there any items that you want to highlight that you don't agree with, or that you won't be complying with, or are you pretty good with that?
Nope. I think the only comment in there that we've already complied with is the minimum lot size. When we were working out the ratios, we were a few square feet shy on lot 1, so that's been adjusted. It's reflected in the sheet or the plat that's on the screen right now.
Okay.
I think the only other item to discuss is the 3 options for the sidewalk. That's in the staff report.
Okay.
Where's the driveway for the second lot?
Yeah, so the site plan shows an approximate curb cut location. So it's furthest from the intersection on the right side of lot 2.
So we have
area right over there. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Lightly hatched.
Oh, so it wasn't. Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So did everybody understand 3 options? I guess so. Here's the crux of it for me is the subdivision regulations appear to require sidewalk, and in other places like Williston, we've watched them build their sidewalk system in a patchwork fashion where whoever comes in to develop something, the sidewalk in, we don't care where it's got to go. And it looks kind of funny for a while, but eventually it'll all be sewn together and it'll look fine, right? So in theory, that's kind of the baseline for me, that it's supposed to be there. And yet we got a situation here where there's some other things that appear to make sense. But the one question I have is, which we didn't know last time, we didn't know that the city had a master plan that included which side of the street the sidewalk was supposed to be on. So we kept wondering, well, does it go on? What if it goes on the other side of the street? Maybe there's something to that. So since we're only doing a sidewalk on one side of the street, and it's now been determined that it is proposed by the city to occur on the north side, then now the whole sidewalk's in play again. The question in the options is, where does it go? Did they build the portion that's in front of the 2 lots being subdivided? They build a different portion of the equivalent length, or do they provide a payment to the city so that when the city ultimately does the sidewalk, they've contributed, right? So if they weren't doing it, like the only question I had was if they aren't doing, if the applicants weren't here, would the city pave it anyway? And how come nobody, like that would just be in the capital plan and it would happen, right? So now you'll have an applicant who's doing a project. We're saying put the sidewalk in because that's what the regs say, but we've now given them some options. So explain that part to me. Like, why are there options?
So, I mean, these are options for the DRB to consider. These are not really really options for the applicants.
All right, so hold on a second because we did get a letter from Diane Clements, who's on the planning commission, and I think her take on this is extremely germane, which is we're all aiming for more connectivity. We all want more walkability. This is a thoroughfare down to one of our major employers. It should be there. I tend to agree with that, and I don't know why I have options. Like, why is the city willing to cede the creation of this sidewalk?
I don't think the city is really willing to cede the creation of the sidewalk, but what I was hearing during the last the conceptual subdivision plan hearing was that the DRB had some reservations about requiring this sidewalk, but I know that new information has come in, and that's why the option one is kind of the reason why is at the top and it's considered option one is because it is what a straight read of the land development code would yield.
All right. Anyway, that's my only question. So does anyone else on the board have a question about the option?
I mean, option one is the preferred, and we need to have the sidewalk there.
Well, for me, that I don't know that option one is the default. I think option one is already a twist because my read of the straight requirement is they would build the section in front of their land and not have to get into whatever's curbed or whatever's happening up on the end. So it's a different, like they build the one in front of them, and when anybody or the city wants to finish it off, they do. That to me is that's what we're supposed to be doing.
And then that would be option 3.
Well, actually,
That's option 0.
That would be option 0.
Zero, okay.
I suppose I was trying to simplify this based on what I heard during the last hearing. But
And it was confusing because we really didn't understand whether there was any previously conceived plan in this area. So we found out 2 things. 1, yes, there is. 2, it's on that side of the street. So now option 0 is you build it, right? Any other option is a twist on that.
And I remember from last time, the lot 1, is there space to build the sidewalk in front of that? Because that's right up against.
It's very close.
It's close. So it's,
And that's obnoxious, but that's
okay.
that's the deal.
It's,
Can I?
yeah.
So I think my read of the staff report is that the sidewalk's in the capital improvement plan, but to say that there's a definitive plan of what side the street it goes on is based on a planning commission discussion from 20 years ago about Riverside of the Village carrying a sidewalk down to River Street. And that just happens to be on the north side of the road. There's a wetland crossing over there that's under consideration. Getting a permit to cross a wetland for a redundant sidewalk connection that, let's be honest, everyone coming down River Street's going to take a right and go to Park Road. That's not really minimizing impact. Might be a difficult conversation to have with the wetlands folks. IBM's over half-mile away. You got to go through a booth. I don't know if they're inviting pedestrian traffic anytime soon. Or sorry, Global Foundries. So I think there's a little more gray area there than straight up. There's a scoping study that shows this is what we want. This is how much money it's going to cost, and this is our time frame to do it. We've already proposed the easement. We think that is in line with the scope and scale of our development. There's two lots being proposed, 160 feet of sidewalk is a substantial impact to a two-lot subdivision. If it's a large multifamily building, easier to stomach, but for a two-lot subdivision, and we just feel it's overkill given the scope, and I think we're doing our part by keeping essentially all options open to the village in the future.
It's all fair. That's also all fair. I would ask for more information from my board members.
My thought is that the land development code was kind of written with the idea we are going to be more bike walk friendly, and that's what we'd like to do. And so with this subdividing section, the idea that if you're subdividing, you're going to like create this space and we can waive it if there's an alternative which provides equal or superior pedestrian access. And I just don't see that.
Yeah, and I think what we spoke about last time was if the sidewalk took a different route, then it is superior to essentially giving nothing. So, just to go through the options, with option one, we wouldn't be interested in, as you spoke. There's vegetation, there's a traffic pole in the way. Surveying the abutting property would be an issue. So option one is considerably more expensive than just doing it in front of our lots. And then option two, the pay in lieu fee, seems like there might be some complications there. But in my opinion, the budget for the in lieu fee is substantially more than what the sidewalk would cost, and by just building it. So we wouldn't be interested in option two either. So as we've stated, I think option three is a fair middle ground. In my opinion, the subdivision standards are there for, building new roads. I think if we were building a new road here, there'd be no question there'd be a sidewalk on it. No doubt about
it. Rob, do you have any comment?
No, not really. I drive down this road every day, so I know how tight it's going to be to get a sidewalk in there. You got a big apartment complex down there on Franklin. I could see it definitely being useful for folks to have a sidewalk, but we're not talking about sidewalk all the way to Franklin. We're talking about just what's in front of the property.
Yeah, and the 400 units in Riverside, we understand is a large user, but the southernmost units, if you've ever been up that back entrance that kind of snakes up through there's a retaining wall. All their entrances go to the front. To think anyone there is going to turn around, go down that entrance, go down River Street, and then take a right to the Five Corners,
Might be walking to work.
I don't think so. And that's a tough conversation to have with the wetlands program too.
So, can I ask of the city staff what the real? What is the real status of this connection piece envisioned for this street? Does it exist on paper somewhere as a line? If the city really was going to engineer something and build it, would it really go on the north side?
So this is in the capital plan in two parts. The section between Park Streets and Stanton Drive is one piece, and the from Stanton to Franklin is another piece. It's on the capital plan. It is not. It is not certain when that will be. When it will actually make it to the top of the list. But all the assumptions have been that it is on the north side. And that is really based on connectivity to the population center over here. This is Riverside by the Village is the densest part of the city in terms of population per square mile. And in terms of connectivity, I just see the north side as the most plausible location where we'll have the future sidewalk. Also, if it's on the south side, you would have to cross the street again right here.
But it hasn't been engineered. It's like not.
It is not engineered.
Developed
No,
to the
that's right.
point where somebody, has a plan that shows it.
That's correct. Yeah, that's.
All right, I'm gonna go to the audience for, comment from the audience. Is there anyone, Steve? Yeah. Yeah, how do we do that?
I think it would make sense for the speak for city presenter spot.
Thank you. So thank you for allowing me to speak. So I've commuted on this road for 28 years. I was on the board of trustees when we first looked at this, engineered it. I was involved in the planning commission decisions, Riverside and the village. It's always been the north side of the road. The part in front of these properties is absolutely the most dangerous portion on that road. People walk daily to Global Foundries. I've almost hit people because there's nowhere for them to go. The lighting isn't great, and it's scary when you're driving home, and it's a 35-mile-an-hour road. I don't think we necessarily need like a 5 or 6 foot grass buffer to the sidewalk and all of that. We just need a sidewalk. I know there's, not a lot of space, but as you're approaching the cars, people racing to get through the light before it turns red, it's just a really dangerous area. Again, I've walked it, run it, biked it, everything. And when we talk about walkability in the city plan, it's not always just to like get somewhere. People want to go for a walk. They're going to take a loop or something. It's not always like I have to go only from point A to point B. Creating this connector here creates a big connection through Riverside, and it's something, And right now we haven't had a lot of money for the capital plan in recent years. That's why we got the lot passed. There's a dedicated thing for sidewalks. So, the hope is that over time, my hope is that now we can start funding some of these sidewalk projects and stuff that haven't been able to make it because, we've got the culverts on Indian Brook or the water line, a lot of other super pressing issues, and we can start tackling these. And anything we can do, it's, we're allowing the applicant to subdivide the land and all of that, and there's a cost to that sometimes. And I agree, we want to, we don't want to put people out more than we have to. And maybe things can be done to, again, not put the sidewalk so far away from the road. And I know there's an easement discussion, but the right of way of that road has got to have plenty of room. It's just my guess. I mean, it's a 2-lane road with a micro shoulder on both sides. The right of way's got to be 49.5 feet, which is 25 feet either side of the center line. Lanes are generally 12 feet. So you've got 12 feet on the other side of that white line on the north side there that we can get a sidewalk in. And so maybe the way to reduce the cost is to, maybe not have a Cadillac sidewalk, but just have something that's safe and will help people. And like I said, the bus, I don't know if it goes there at all now, but it always sometimes went, but not always. So people would take the bus, they get off at that intersection and walk to Global Foundries. I had friends that did that, and it's scary, and not everybody has cars. Like I said, I rode my bike for 28 years down that road. And so I'm speaking from experience. And hopefully some of that background on why we did it on the north side, it was as the development director said, because there's that big triangle you come to, and it would be unsafe to have a crossing there because people tend to drive. Speed limit is 35. People are doing 40 and more on that street. And so you want to limit the number of street crossings. That's why Riverside and the village put the sidewalk down there. And we know it's a long-term project, but anything we can do is great. Did you have any other questions for me on background or anything?
No, I think that's been helpful. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience on this topic? Anybody on screen for this topic? Wait, how many people do we have left? Just Rob?
Just Rob.
Wow.
And I think it should be stated, we're obviously not against pedestrian connectivity.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the conversation here. I just think actually building it is No, it's been that way for a very long time. Does this one house make unsafe condition where that sidewalk has to?
No, but you're gonna have to help it fix it to do your thing. That's how
Yeah,
that
we're
works.
helping with an easement.
I guess I'm sensitive to a couple of things. One is, it's clearly supposed to be there. Two is we want to make sure that it's integrated properly into the ultimate, final city plan. I guess if we're gonna tell the applicant that it needs to be there, somebody better be sure that's where they want it. And they better figure out where this piece is gonna fit in because, we're pouring concrete, as they say, right? And you want it to be in the right place. So, I guess my feeling is that if you wanna accept the easement and you want to work on the fee, it may not be the fee that you're showing there. There may be other factors related to what that fee really is. But I don't think there's any question from the board that we want the sidewalk. And we want it to line up where the city says it should be. And if that information suggests that that's where it goes, then we want it there. And I don't know that I want to leverage any more than that, but it should be fair to the applicant because it is a fairly small development, but they definitely need to play their part in making this happen. Can you work with that kind of a authorization?
Yes.
All right. How do we make a motion out of that? Do you have any other questions on the subdivision, by the way? Anybody?
I'm sorry, I'm not clear what.
I haven't made it yet, so
Okay.
Yeah, we're just trying to get the wind sense here.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Do you have any more other questions on the subdivision? I think we only had the sidewalk really as the issue. So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the subdivision with the stipulations and conditions in the staff report, and that we approve it with option 3A, which is they get the easement, and then if you want them to build anything, you gotta provide direction to them on exactly where it's gonna go. Because if you let them build the sidewalk, then they are telling the city how the plan's gonna go. I don't think that should happen. You have a master plan with capital waiting to be spent at some time in the future. You should be in charge of where that sidewalk goes. And I'm assuming it goes on the north side, but what I'm saying is if they're engineering for a sidewalk, and I would think that needs a curb so it's not, so the cars are pedestrians are protected from the vehicles, right? That somebody's gonna, is that all in the handbook? If you put a sidewalk in, it has a curb, it has a sidewalk, it goes this place.
The specific requirements for a sidewalk and the technical specifications are in the land development code. Not all sidewalks require a curb if there is a space between, if there is a green buffer. And actually that often makes it cheaper if you don't build a curb.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't really understand what your proposed motion is.
Well,
here, but
they're gonna give us the easement, right? Because
Right.
that's a thing, right?
Right.
And so the question is, do they build a sidewalk or do they give you money? That's the next question.
So if the city engineer signs off on north side being the side to go with, would you be happy with the applicant building the sidewalk there?
I would.
Okay.
And so if the sidewalk isn't worth whatever you've calculated and you can build it for less, then that's fine. But I don't want the applicant wondering what they're building because the city hasn't figured out what they want yet. I want the city to be involved in telling the applicant, this is the sidewalk that we're going to connect to your first piece in the future, and it's all going to come together.
Yeah, and you know, our argument is shouldn't that be in place before we submit, not kind of make it up as we go. You know, I mean, it's kind of.
I'm happy to let you guys work it out. I'm not trying to tell you where to put your sidewalk either. I'm trying to tell my city staff to get their act together and have a sidewalk plan in place so that when I tell you you have to put it in, you know what you're doing.
Understood.
Yeah. Steve.
I think the city engineer drew it all out way back, so it should be a matter, maybe they just need to double check it, but it should all be there. I mean, because they can't cost it if they don't, you know,
Yeah,
lay out a full
have some
plan. So I
idea.
think the plan's all there. Like, I think I hear people wondering if we have, like, specifics.
Yeah.
I believe it's very specific.
There's enough
We just
there
have
to.
point to it.
Excellent.
But your point is taken.
So, I'm gonna continue my motion with option 3A that says the city is going to provide some direction to the applicant on what's supposed to be there as part of the approval. But the sidewalk's supposed to be there.
I feel like he's picking option 3, which is the most lenient, and then I don't feel like the added on statement is really encompassing what I want it to encompass. I feel like it should be option 3 with the understanding that working with the engineer, either fees to pay for the sidewalk or they will create the sidewalk themselves will happen.
That I thought that's what I was saying, because it's 3A, right? It's not just 3. You get the
But there's a stipulation that they have
Yeah.
to work with the city to.
you get the easement, done deal. And then you have to either build it or you have to provide funding for the city to build.
Okay.
One of those things has to happen to get A, right? We're taking 3 already.
A has
You
been a
can-
little nebulous in my opinion, but I'm on board now.
Okay.
Right. I think you can ignore the options altogether and articulate what the requirement. I think that's the most important clarity we need here, whether or not it's like ultimately the applicant is required to to build the sidewalk or fund the sidewalk upon confirmation by the city engineer that side is where it's be.
Hearing the long decades of history of the need for the sidewalk, I would like to see it built myself. And if the city somehow can't manage to provide that direction, for whatever reason, then I would accept money toward building it. But I don't think the city should be, dragging its heels. You have a great opportunity here to make it happen. So how do we? All right, so we have that, a motion.
I think that we have a question.
Yeah, so I just have some clarification questions. So when we're talking about building a sidewalk, I don't think it's reasonable for me to build a connection on, my neighboring property to connect to Park Street.
It's not. No, we're not saying that.
Okay, so I
Just in front of your property,
okay,
which is dumb, but that's how that goes.
yeah, and then was the easement at building the sidewalk, was the instructions from the city engineer, should we put a time limit on that? Like they will provide the instructions by.
I don't know if I can. I
or-
don't know if I can do that, because what I'm really trying to do is get my city to take care of this, and there's no guarantee that they will, even though they now have a piece of the pie, right? Piece of the puzzle in place.
Well,
Who says
I
they
am
won't?
confident we would be able to respond in a timely fashion.
Well, but what about the piece between Park Street and?
Oh, well, that might not be connected. I think
Yeah,
your
so-
point before was that there might just be a gap. But
Yeah.
in terms of providing direction on where this current, the required sidewalk has to go, I'm confident that the city staff can provide that direction in a timely fashion.
Okay. So, who wants to read the motion back to me? Is that Can we do that? We have the stipulations and conditions that are already on here. And the last one needs to be modified to provide an easement and a portion of the sidewalk in front of the on the applicant's property.
Sorry, continue.
We have to modify the fourth proposed condition because it relates to the sidewalk. So we're approving it with the stipulations and conditions of the modified applicant shall provide an easement to the city for future construction of an easement to the city and construct a sidewalk along River Street. And if it gets bartered down to a payment because you couldn't tell them how to build a sidewalk, then that's your problem.
I have faith that the city will deal with it in a timely fashion. And it will happen.
There's a lot of culverts to fix out there.
I still have faith.
All right. So then can we lobby we need to go to the capital projects meeting, don't we? All right.
So
Everybody-
we're
are we
approving
clear
the
now?
final subdivision plan with the stipulation that they put a sidewalk in front of your property.
Well, it's
Yes.
that they provide the easement for the sidewalk
Yeah.
only, and then the two-tiered option.
No, we're really saying they provide the easement and build the sidewalk on their portion of on their property.
In front of their portion.
Yeah.
In front of their property.
A long time.
I mean, have we officially made a motion?
Do they still need it?
Yeah, that's a motion. I need a second.
I think it's easier to build it. in some
Yeah, so we've
spots
approved
rather
the
than being
plan
the right
with
way.
Stipulation.
the stipulation that they build a sidewalk in front of their property.
Much. If
It's like
put the
very
sidewalk
simple
right here,
terms.
but you want to get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gotta get better about motion. It was so easy at the end. All right.
Last one.
But we were gonna get to see Doug Henson somehow out of all this. All right. Application number 3, conceptual site plan for a proposed mixed-use development to construct a 5-story building with 2 commercial spaces on the first floor and 52 apartments on the upper stories at 17 Park Street in the CB district. City Village, BC, yeah, okay. By Mylot Real Estate, agent for Handy Hotels and Rentals LLC owners. We have applicants here. Introduce yourselves, please, for the record. And
I'm
off you go.
Brett Grabowski with My Lot Real Estate.
And I'm Greg Dixon with Krebs and Lansing Consulting Engineers.
All kinds of people in the audience. Did everybody get sworn in that's planning to say anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. A little bit of a presentation, then I'll listen to staff and the board.
Yeah, so we're here. Do we have anything that we can put up or no?
Yeah, whatever you need that you've already submitted.
Yeah, my site plan, the proposed site plan.
Okay.
C1.0.
This document right here?
You go down 1. 2.
One more.
There we go.
This one.
Oops.
So we're here this evening. So My Lot Real Estate is obviously it's the applicant here on the site, and we actually will be purchasing the property from Handy's Hotels and Rentals. in the future. And so we're here tonight to give you an overview of the project and a site that has been sorely needed to be redeveloped for quite a few years. There was a previous approval on this site quite a few years ago for a smaller project, roughly three stories in scale. And obviously, since that was approved, somewhere around 7 or 8 years ago, there's obviously been quite a bit of redevelopment. Specifically, Mylar Real Estate has been involved with both the 4 Pearl Street project and 11 Park Street, which have been completed. The 11 Park Street project was completed approximately 2 years ago. So what we are proposing now on this site is as described by staff, is we're looking to take advantage of the new regulations that were passed in the springtime. What we are proposing is a 5-story building. And I think the benefit of what we're doing here and the ability of to propose what we're proposing to you is we're going to be leveraging quite a bit of the infrastructure that was already put in place with the 11 Park Street project. So the building as proposed is a 5 stories, 52 units, a mixture of studios, micro units, full 1-bedrooms and 2-bedroom units, with also approximately roughly 6,000 square feet of commercial on the first floor. Parking is going to be provided even though there is not a minimum parking standard now in the new regulations, we are actually going to be providing 3 levels of parking on the project. One is going to be underneath the structure, and that will be accessed through the ramp for 11 Park Street. So we'll be essentially combining the foundations underground. There will be a parking deck similar to what you see on 11 Park Street, whereas we'll be utilizing the existing ramp for 11. And as you come up the ramp, if you're familiar with the flow of traffic for 11 Park, as you come up the ramp right now, you hang a left. Well, now we'll be able to hang a right as well. And so that structured parking, which will be tucked in behind the building, we're providing for approximately 19 parking spaces. And then underneath the structure itself, similar to 11 Park Street, there will be another 27 spaces. And that will be accessed off of the, is there a name for it? But the School Street driveway right now that provides access all the way up and around and back out to Park Terrace. So the building as proposed will be a flat roof building. I don't know if we want to put up, Chris, we can put up the architectural design.
Do you want just?
Yeah, that's probably fine for now. And that is basically the preliminary design of the building, showing the 5 stories with the commercial on the first floor. The building is kind of broken up, a little bit of relief in the building itself. We're showing some decks, as well as you go to the back of the building, you'll see that it is raised up on that one section. And there will be parking underneath that, and then that'll tie in with the parking deck that'll be behind it. What you cannot see on the far side to the left is there is going to be some outdoor space at that upper level as far as community goes. And then I think overall, generally this evening, we're looking to kind of just, as I gave you an overall description of the project, is to kind of go down through some of staff's comments, discuss a little bit farther in regards to the board's general take in regards to the building. I mean, there was some comments in regard from staff in regards to colors and materials, and that's all for discussion this evening. Those are very easy to modify and change based upon comments from you. And then we can also go in and discuss a little bit more in regards to staff's comments in regards to the general circulation, in regards to pedestrian access, how the buildings are going to relate to each other. And then obviously Greg Rabideau is here this evening to my left, who is actually, his firm has actually done the design on all 3 buildings that we basically own or have built here at 5 Corners. And then Greg is here to discuss specifically the site work.
Can I ask a parking question?
Yep.
So 11 Park is the Boxcar Bakery building?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Making sure. In that parking in the back is public parking.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then, so this building, anyone who is in this new building, are they going to be, you said they're exiting on School Street?
Underneath.
Underneath, but
Yes.
they'll come out on School Street and then they'll either go to Pearl Street.
So just like, so as far as the circulation goes,
Yeah.
just like you have from 11 Park, right? So you can access 11, come out of 11 Park. All three levels can, as they come up, can go left or right. So they can access out on Park Street, or they can come left and come out through School Street. If that's
Okay,
what
but I mean, it's very difficult to make a left onto Park Street. So for the most part, I mean, if you live there, you're probably gonna go up Park Terrace and come down and make a right onto Pearl.
people access the circulation is all. You see people accessing.
Have you ever tried to make a left out of?
I'm through here every day, multiple times a day.
It's kind of difficult.
And so, well, you're also looking as part of this project too, is the reduced flow of traffic that and design the Crescent Connector is going to provide for.
But so they'll come out and they'll either go left and then right onto School and back down, or left onto Pearl.
There's three ways to exit this project. One is going to be Park Terrace. One is going to be hang a left and go up Park Terrace and out. And then the other is to come down School Street.
Come down School, okay, and then go to Pearl.
That's
yeah.
From out of the school. It's not called School Street. So it's
School Street. Is exactly,
School Street's up top.
Yeah,
I was so confused.
Park Street School.
Okay, thank you.
Let's call it the school driveway.
I got it now.
But you'll go out and make a left onto Park Terrace, make a right on School.
If you want to go out that way.
Yeah.
If you
Or
want to
you'll
head
make
west.
a right onto Park and make a left.
Yeah, if you want to head west out to Burlington,
Yeah.
then the shortest route is going to be Park Terrace left, right on the School Street, left onto 15.
Yeah, which is
rough.
Which is rough.
Which is rough.
Or you can go down to.
Or you can go out to the light.
I mean, it's just that's a lot more volume of people trying to do that.
Well, but they won't. So the point is they'll find an easier route, which probably has them cutting through Indian Acres or going down to the next light and all the way out to West Street. So
Currently, right now, your whole Five Corners is zoned for this kind of density and this type of redevelopment.
Yeah.
And it basically takes into account that, yes, you may have to, the timing of the Five Corners. I would assume that once the Crescent Connector is completed next summer and that traffic is taken, that diversion of traffic is taken into account, I would assume that Five Corners, that light is going to get retimed. And that's going to be all due to
Or adding a light to School Street.
So.
Okay, I just was because
there's a lot going on there,
Yeah.
and there've been multiple options surfacing, including closing Main Street, which has for that little section, which turns Five Corners into a 4-corner intersection. And there's a traffic study which shows that actually improves traffic in all directions at what was Five Corners. But there isn't a whole lot of support for that until the Crescent Connector goes in, because nobody wants to dream of what really happens there until that road's in place and you can try it.
Yeah.
So it is a game changer to get the Crescent Connector in place and to watch it function. And the strong hope is that really cuts down on the amount of traffic going through Five Corners from at least the Park Street side. It should cut down dramatically. I had a number of comments, mostly related to pedestrian activity, and then I just it's nice that we can kind of see the whole thing, because the presentation focuses on just the one proposed building and it doesn't really put the whole package together there. So as the project goes forward into the next phase, I think we're going to want to see that, just remind us how it all comes together to have 4 Pearl and 11 Pearl and this one, right?
Yeah, and we can discuss, because
parks
that was part of staff's
Yeah.
comments, and we've actually already kind of thought about that a little bit, and we're actually really, as what we're doing in regards to the parking, as far as combining all the assets, basically. We're looking to do that as well as on the front of the building as well. And so we're actually looking to, if we go back to, since we're kind of on that, we can jump around if you guys don't mind, since you brought that up. So if we go back to the site plan, there were some discussions about the space in between the buildings. And we're really, and I wasn't necessarily really happy with this additional design either, because I think the space between the buildings that you're seeing there, I think is a pretty valuable area to develop more as a pedestrian friendly type area that can serve, because we've already had a lot of interest in regards to the commercial on the north, in that building itself. And so we really see that space in between the two buildings is really being kind of an outside terrace type area that can be utilized by potential. Right now we have 2 restaurants that are actually interested. One is in the 2,500 square feet in 11 Park. And then we also have some interest in the northern space in the new building that we're proposing. And seeing basically be able to utilize that area in the middle as basically outdoor type seating, terrace type area. In order to maximize that or utilize that, we're actually looking to connect, to have the sidewalks actually connect all the way up through. So that all of that area right now, since the 2 buildings from an elevation standpoint are going to be at the same elevation, so 17 Park and 11 Park will basically be at the same height, that to have a sidewalk that runs, since there's some discussions about the 2 levels of sidewalk. Unfortunately, we don't have any choice but to kind of continue that through. And because it's been something that happened here, it started with 4 Pearl, because of the elevational change from this corner to that corner is actually multiple feet of drop, and it's really deceiving. And so that's how, as the sidewalk comes around the building and it's at one level, you start to get an elevated type sidewalk. And so now we're looking to essentially, obviously Park Terrace kind of broke that up, but now as we go to the farther south and we have the 11 Park building that is already built, we're looking to continue that all the way through, so that the 2-tiered sidewalk will remain. It will not be steps down and steps back up. It will come all the way through, and then it'll be a consistent elevation between the buildings that we can further develop, basically kind of as an open terrace type area. That's a good vision.
Yeah, I guess I like that idea. I just quickly, maybe measured the distance between the 2 buildings there, and it's around 20 feet.
20 feet.
Yeah, okay. And so that's a pretty nice little pedestrian area. It looks like there's some plantings, and maybe it hasn't quite.
We haven't. It's not even close to being developed to what we want it to look like.
So we chatted about it today, and those plantings would kind of go away. That whole 20 feet would almost become flat. From the back of the building all the way to the front. The stairs that you're looking at right now would effectively be removed. And it would just come flat straight across there to the next building. And that whole area could be used for courtyard for eateries and stuff like that. And it would just be a pedestrian way.
And then to remind the board too, those telephone poles go away eventually. So we've already had discussions with Green Mountain Power. So all the poles go away on Park Street coming in. So their main goal right now is to move all the poles back to actually the south side of the Church Street driveway. And it goes underground and over into the Lincoln Inn property, which we also, My Lot Real Estate also owns. So at this point, so we're going to be back in front of you as far as that redevelopment goes, but it kind of helps now that our goal is to all these lines go underground, which are obviously everybody should be excited about. So, eventually, like I said, you look at those poles right now, as well as the pole to the right, which is right at Park Street. And yeah, all those crossing lines, all that ends up getting buried, in the long run.
What about like ADA compliance though? I mean, how do you?
So ADA, obviously right now from the Park Street side, that's ADA. There's a small ramp there, right? Because because we have parking, or handicap parking basically is underneath the parking deck, as well as over on the 4 Pearl site.
We would also have, if you look at the site plan.
Oh, yeah, that's like I forgot for the ramp.
Yeah, and then there will be, as you go to the other 11, to 17 Park, there will be there'll be, we will allow right now the ADA parking for 17 Park Street, the new building, is actually going to be, it's underneath the parking deck. There's going to be ADA parking spaces there. And so there'll be access either from the Park Street side down through, or there will be, even though we're talking about this pedestrian type area, there will be ADA access through that.
I guess that I looked at that for a while on the drawings, and it feels like somewhere you need to, once you enter at 11 on the north side of 11 and you get on that pedestrian elevated section, I want to be able to get back down again somewhere without going all the way back. It's like a giant dead end,
So I guess we were coming to the board to discuss that a little bit.
Yeah.
We felt that, I mean, what we're showing right now is sort of that effect, but you're seeing how much room it soaks up and how basically the space in between, the 20 feet in between would just become a ramp. And is that a desire? Which we feel it's not. I feel that having it flat and having areas for both of those businesses and creating a space that is a little bit elevated from the street is warranted. The other point being is what are you accessing at that point? You're not going to any businesses on there. You would have ways to get back around.
I thought that was all businesses along the.
Well, I mean,
No,
we are provide. Like I said, we are provide. There's basically 3 ways that you could access any of the businesses along the front of these 2 buildings specifically. One is you can park underneath the 11 Park Street deck. You can either go down by the ramp by the Boxcar Bakery. There's a ramp there. You can come, as you can see here, you can come all the way down internally from those parking spaces under the deck. So you end up right here because that's all going to be at the same level. Or you can park in these 2, or you can even add additional spaces to park underneath the new proposed parking structure. So there will be basically from 3 different locations, you can access all of the frontage along these 2 buildings. And then if you wanted to, you can access, because it ramps up to 4 Pearl, you can go that way as well. So I think we're offering multiple means of egress to all the stores on the frontage of these buildings. And there's also means of egress from the backside as well. So these buildings come all the way through. So if you have just like 11 Park, you can actually access all the businesses from the back of the building as well as from the front of the building that are ADA accessible. And the same thing is going to exist from this building as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm still stuck on the.
What's that?
Let's say I'm in a wheelchair.
Yep.
Let's say I'm on the elevated portion of the front sidewalk.
Yep.
Right. I can go in and out of businesses because that's where they are. Mm-hmm. How do I get back down to the real sidewalk? It's like on the south end. That's.
Well, we could. Greg just said we can provide a similar means of egress on the south side as we do up at Boxcar Bakery.
We just have to move the front
Yeah,
door.
I'm thinking that's sort of necessary, but we've been pretty careful with some of our recent projects that don't have a front door. That's they have a front door. They have an accessible door that's by the major parking area or access point. They didn't have a front door necessarily off the public right of way front sidewalk. So I think that's still a big thing you want to try and make sure that that's accessible and not sort of difficult, but
And I think we could do that. I think the only option that we wouldn't have is that if you're in the exact middle of those two buildings,
Yeah.
at that point you can't get down to the ground level. But we didn't really feel it was necessary because what is there to do besides?
it's
stand next
an
to the door?
interesting question because I'm not sure, as a building designer, that's not normally where you think about your accessibility issues is where does a sidewalk, have to go, but
But I think what we just threw out to you as far as if we could provide accessibility on the south end of that building, now we're basically providing
can go up.
We're providing multiple ways of access to front and back of all the buildings.
No, I think it's a very clever integration of the existing property and the new property, and you should be commended for figuring out how to do that. And probably Greg's office and both Greg's have managed to really sew that together well. So I think that's pretty interesting.
It's been interesting because, in all honesty, the longer that we've been involved with these sites, the more that these options have kind of just presented themselves for, and it's become a way of essentially, in the town regulations have changed such that it's really encouraged really what we're proposing. Because we wouldn't have been able to do this like a year ago. Really.
Right. I just want to comment on that because I was on the planning commission when, we approved Park, the first, is it Pearl or Park up there?
It's for Pearl.
Pearl. Okay. So we go around the corner.
Yeah.
Anyway, we encouraged that building to get a little taller at the corner.
Yep.
Which hasn't met with everybody's admiration, but I think it really worked out well. It's just my opinion. I'm only one person, but the density and the presence at that corner is something that should be celebrated, really. And I thought that building was successful in doing that. And now we're going to march down the street, and it's still creating a fairly high line there. And then by taking advantage of, in the meantime, the village trustees said, we aren't that sure about how tall all the stuff is, so we're going to cap everything in the village center at 4 stories. So I think it's actually very interesting that the state has come along and said, well, here's a way to get that extra story. We originally, this zone was allowed to have 6. So, you're now down to 4 through the municipal regulations, but now with the state layer and the affordable piece, that looks like we're going to be able to go back to 5, which I support that, but I also recognize the community outcry at the height issue is still not, it's not gone away yet. So I'm just gonna say that while the regulations will allow it, I think we all have to be pretty careful about how the treatment is, and so that's why it's important as we look at the whole streetscape. Some of the other language in the development code talks about scale in relationship to neighbors. And so, you don't want to, for example, go from, going from 4 to 5 to 4 is fine, but going from 5 to 2 is tricky, right? So I'm going to say that we all want to be careful about how we handle some of those transitions, and a sensitivity of what's happening and why. The view corridor up to the Park Street School is practically sacrosanct. It was very difficult for us to think about how to approve things that start to impinge on that view corridor, because it's been such a staple of historic sort of the community core for so long. And so that's also a thing as this building gets closer to the Park Street School. I happen to walk all the way through all those properties and then along Park Terrace and whatever. Is there a name for the road in the back? No, there's no name. But I just did that last week to park there and walk to something on Pearl Street, and it's still a pretty impressive view. That School Street, Park Street building is still important, and it wants to be continue to be at least historically viewed up that street as a reminder of our history. And I don't exactly know where, but the corner of your building, is it about where the corner of the current building is?
The corner of the new building will be closer to the street, obviously.
Yeah.
But the face of the building is pretty consistent with the existing face of this building right here.
So I guess what I'm saying is the renderings, the design, all of that wants to be evaluated as if you're still on Park Street, with an opportunity to look up this, which is now going to look like a street instead of looking like it's kind of an open space in front of a school, an old school, right? You're gonna be creating and enhancing a view border, and there might be some opportunities in there to do something. I think you just want to look at that. Maybe there's a building form, or maybe there's something that happens along that edge so that it enhances that.
Well, the building itself, if you look at the design, it actually the wing that goes off the back actually steps back.
Yeah.
So if you look
again, without seeing the context to remember which side of the building is on which corner,
if you were standing right here, you're looking up towards the school.
Yeah.
Along this face.
Along that face. So, but the thing closest to the Park Street side, which will define the view, is the tallest.
It's the face that goes that way. Yeah. In this picture.
Just saying, you're gonna want to stand there. I mean, this is why it's so much fun to model these things now. It's because you can really see it. The technology is there for us to see. I think this is going to fall into that category in the LDC that says the commission, the board is entitled to ask for additional renderings to help them conceptualize, right? So it looks like you're actually most of the way there. But I think those kinds of views will be very helpful in having people understand the full context. I would suggest we keep looking ahead for that. I think it's the back side of this as it steps back and the upper level steps back a little bit. The opportunity for those the views from those apartments is going to be outstanding. You're going to be looking basically sitting on your patio on the 5th floor, looking at Camel Thumb. And I know you guys have probably been in 4 Pearl and 11 Park and seen the views. I've only been in the corner building, so I haven't actually been in the other one. But the views are outstanding. They're some of the most amazing views are in the whole area. So
actually go sit on the roof of Fort Pearl.
Yeah. So that could be a marketing tool. I don't know. Maybe that's helpful too. Here's what it looks like if you're on the building looking out. But I don't really have a lot of other things to say about the building at the moment. Again, I think just having it play nicely with its neighbors and sitting in the neighborhood is, that all that neighborhood language is buried in the village center. Redevelopment portion. So the good news is the building that you're tearing down, nobody cares, right? It's a good thing. And I think the things that you're talking about with it sort of joining its brother to the north is going to be really fascinating. maybe you, I don't need to hear it now, but the street life that's starting to develop on those elevated terraces is pretty interesting. I think it took a while to get going, but I think it's starting to show up now. In fact, some of this nice weather that we've had in the fall, you can walk down there and you see people enjoying those spots, and you know, so they shouldn't be underestimated. Contributors to street life and the city center.
No, I agree. I mean, I've been, like I said, when we built, we were here and we developed and built Fort Pearl, we were and I've always said, this process here is going to take a while. It just does. And we were the first to the show, right? So it's, you know, I think the building was a great contribution, a great first step, but these, like I said, it takes time. I mean, you know, the redevelopment of Winooski, whether you like how it turned out or not, is beside the point, but it took a while for that all to happen. And a lot of it was the commercial, right? So if you remember, Winooski, the commercial was vacant for a long time. And it met a critical mass of residential, right? And once the residential finally got there, then the businesses followed. You're seeing the same thing happen here. I mean, we continue to have, you know, greater and greater interest of the commercial because the residents are here now. And it becomes self-sustaining, and they're not as worried about where do I park 1,000 cars 5 feet from the door, because they know they basically are going to have 1,000 people that can walk across the street. And so that becomes, you know, that's becomes a really important aspect, I think, of any of these redevelopment projects in these core centers or these growth centers as they're being designated. It takes time.
I think you're fortunate in that you have personally the history of what is going on there. You did the first one, you did the second one, right? So those lessons learned and those stories and those observations of how life is changing in the usage and the demand is really helpful for all of us to know.
Yeah.
So I would incorporate that into the presentations, because I think it helps everybody in the community figure out, you know, what's going on.
Yeah.
And they need that. You know, they need to understand.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is, just as we're here tonight to talk about, you know, you don't think about and I've always been, and I've been looking at this since we had these first designs, is that you look at the 20 feet that's between the two buildings. When you're redeveloping areas like this at the high density that you guys are promoting, 20 feet's a lot of space, right? Okay, and it needs to be maximized as much as possible, because, you know, as we've all seen, you know, when McGillicuddy's is busy, everybody questions, why the heck would anybody want to sit outside on top of basically 5 corners? What people do, it's full. People just enjoy that. Whether they enjoy, believe it or not, they enjoy the traffic. They enjoy watching the cars by. They enjoy the people that go along with it, whatever it might be, people crossing the street. And that's similar. And that's, as you're referring to, as this gets busier, you know, the smaller areas need to be developed as best as possible to invite basically people to occupy them. Because they don't need a lot of space. But they still want the area regardless. And so I think there's lots of opportunities to develop these little nooks and crannies around these buildings, but you just need to recognize that that's what people are looking for, and then how to actually maximize the limited outside space that comes along with these higher density areas that everybody wants.
And one thing that struck me walking behind the current 11 park is there is a lot of parking back there. You just, you know, and I think people would be surprised to know it's there, because you don't really see it, and it's there, and it's helpful for the whole area. So the problems that, you know, might have been underparked at 4 Pearl are helped by the development of those parking spaces that are beautifully tucked in behind everything.
Yeah.
And that's just I know I asked this already. That's public parking.
Yes.
Can we actually put signs up that say that that's public parking?
Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, you have the biggest public parking lot here, but there's also, this kind of comes to another topic that I was going to bring up with staff eventually here. right now, you have a lot of parking over at the school street driveway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it's a town, you can see it, it is completely underutilized.
Yeah. But nobody knows it's there.
Yeah, and so yes, there can be certainly signage, but another thing that I think needs to happen is it needs to be unposted. Because
Unposted.
it's posted between midnight to 6 a.m. That lot.
It says you're not allowed to park there overnight.
Oh, well, we don't really want anyone to park there overnight.
Well, I mean, if you're going to,
You do if you live there and you need someone comes to visit you.
Oh,
and you
okay. I was
move a
thinking
car
like
over there or something.
public.
yeah,
But not by the lot.
that lot specifically,
Yeah.
really should be open. You know, it promotes a lot of people being able to come in because it's a lot of visual, right? And so one of the biggest problems with this parking lot here, even though you have 60 public parking spaces, nobody knows it's here. I mean, yes, you have some signage, but the number of people that when we built 4 Pearl, we're like, hey, there's 60 spaces right across the street. Nobody knew it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. Whereas I think when this project is built here, this is going to become a little bit more in the visual corridor. I mean, we talked about having that whole area opened up and making sure you can see School Street. Well, part of the parking is part of it, right? So if we have, multiple restaurants and stuff, say in this new building as well as in the 11 Park building, then people are going to want to see that and have it be evident that they can park there, and they're not going to have to worry that, hey, I'm down here and I'm over at on tap, or I'm at McGillicuddy's and it's open later, or the restaurant and suddenly it's midnight, but hey, I'm parked in the town lot that says I got to be out of there by midnight. I mean, it's just, I don't think it in this specific case. I think it should be a discussion that should be had with the city in regards to potentially laxing that specific, requirement or that posting in that area. And I think it's just been really just a kind of a standard policy throughout the entire city. And maybe it needs to become more of it needs to be more directed on a lot by lot basis in regards to, what restrictions are imposed.
It's a fascinating comment. It's the whole parking issue is a municipal and individual owner issue. It's not one or the other.
Yeah, and as you said, the 11 Park project and the deck that we built there has been a complete success. It's really just, there was a lot of pressure on 4 Pearl for the density that we built, which was great. But there was a lot of, I don't want to say resistance, but just a lot of unsurety in regards to, like I said, you have all this parking here, but, and I've said this for so many years, if you go downtown Burlington, your perception is, you're going to have to park and walk. That's just going to Burlington. When you come here, that's not your perception. Your perception is, I'm going to park 5 feet from the door, and if I can't, then I'm out of here. And
not really what you want in your village,
and that's not what you want in your redevelopment of your dense area. And so, but we are finding that with the additional parking and familiarity with the additional parking that we've added for 11 Park, and a similar concept that we're going to be doing here for the new proposal with the three levels of parking, that I think we're really helping to promote that, and people are just becoming more familiar and more aware of what they can do here.
All right, I just have 2 other comments, and then I'll turn it over to the public if they want to make comments. One was the unit count versus parking, which is always a big question, and I know it's not really specified in the city. Do we still call it the village center, or is it now a
This is
city
the village
center?
center zoning district.
So I didn't have a problem with it. I know that you've got a lot of efficiencies and 1 bedrooms, and people tend to imagine that you're gonna have fewer cars and so on and so forth. So I would think the right number of cars on a project like this is probably somewhere between 1 per unit and 1 1/3 per unit, like 1.3. You could argue that you want a few more, but if you're gonna live somewhere where you don't need a car and it's not here, I don't know where it is. That's just how that works. So I didn't really have a big problem with the number of parking spaces, even though others may say, well, it's a little light. I'm not sure that it is. But in case somebody wants to park or has a visitor or something like that, I think we still need to recognize that there'll be some demand for those kind of spaces. And if the excess or expansion capacity is on the Park Street School, at night, ideal, right? The other was the nature of the affordable units, and I wasn't quite sure if they were, is it like, it's not all gonna be, the high efficiency. It's probably some blend of, the other unit types, and just, I don't know if that was clear in here where that happens, but I'm sure as you go forward, somehow we'll figure out what the right number of each type of unit is and why. I don't know.
No, we're not going to Act 250.
No,
It's exempt.
I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're 20. It's going to be 20% affordable, and we'll come back with we'll work with staff in an appropriate mix across the different unit types. I mean, that's always been a discussion, and that's fine. We're not really. We're not going to sit there and say, oh yeah, no, all the affordable units are going to be the smallest units we have in the building. No, it's there will be, like I said, right now, I don't know if the exact mix, but I think there's 6 or 7 2s. There's a bunch of actually true 1 bedrooms and some micro units, and so there's our proposal in regards to that 20% will be represented across all unit types.
And do you have that are you doing that in your other 2 buildings?
Right now, we do not have any required affordability, but the 11 Park Street pretty much meets all the affordability requirements, because our studio units in that building are anywhere between 14, actually some were even 1300 up to 1700. So almost every unit in that building actually meets the 20% or the 80% affordability criteria.
Anything else on the board for now, or?
Yeah, the short-term parking spaces, I think this is a newer requirement. So I was curious, do the other buildings have short-term parking, or bike parking spaces? Sorry.
We'll come back with at the final, we'll meet the bicycle requirements.
I was just, I figured you.
Oh yeah, we've had some
other
discussions with Chris. So yes, there are on the front of 4 Pearl, there are bicycle parking on the front of 4 Pearl. I think we've had just recently some discussions that we need to add them to 11 Park to go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some locations within 11 Park that I know we can put some bicycle parking underneath the in behind the building, underneath the parking structure. And then obviously, since 17 is still under design, we can accommodate a lot of different locations for that. And you talked about not having that many parking spaces, but with the 60 some odd bicycle parking spaces that you want me to require, it ought to eliminate some cars.
I don't know where that came from, by the way. There's a big number in there, and it's seen some pushback, and I don't know that we have the ability to push it back, but we've had a lot of discussion.
All I know is there's spaces for 8 bikes out in front of 4 Pearl, and I can't remember any time I've seen more than 1. The bike rack. But
I think the bigger piece is the sort of indoor bike storage, or the protected bike storage that's theoretically for all the unit owners who, I don't know, people can probably chime in, but a lot of people are familiar with carrying their bikes upstairs and putting them in.
But also, there's a lot of people
spaces.
nowadays. I don't know if you've been to a bike shop, but most people, the amount that they pay for bikes, they don't care how secure it is. They're not going to leave their bike.
Right.
They're not going to leave their bike locked with everybody else's bikes.
Yeah.
They just
absolutely.
It turns into, my son's down in New York City, and his bike is wall art in his apartment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I first of all can't imagine paying that much for a bike, but I'm old school. I guess.
Yeah, the days of buying a Huffy, it's not, they're long gone.
I'm gonna let Steven talk for a minute. I might have been very patient back there.
Sure.
You can come up to one of the chairs, maybe. Yeah.
Thank you. I think this is a great project. And it's nice to see the, the redevelopment happening. And thank you, Chris. Okay. And I just had two concerns. One is short term. I know when they did the building next door, the sidewalk was closed for like a year. And I realize the sidewalk needs to get closed at times, but this is the middle of the city, and it would be nice to just close the sidewalk when it has to get closed. You see a lot of other, construction in cities where they'll, make a safe area. And then, certainly there's times, a couple weeks here or there, throughout the construction where it's not safe. But anyway, I'd love to be able to see that there's some way to make it so we don't have to cross Park Street twice as a pedestrian going through there. But that's a short-term thing only during construction. The other thing to mention was, I think the applicant has, talked very nicely about the synergies and all that, which I think is great. But from someone not patronizing the business, say you're just passing through, it doesn't feel inclusive. Like when, we envisioned all this stuff years ago and through the different projects in the village and the city, it's like wide sidewalks in the downtown, like where Martone's is, like on both sides of the street there. It's a fairly wide sidewalk. And I know when 4 Pearl went in, it's like raised up a little bit. And I know my son's almost like tripped on the stairs, like going around the corner. But it's really not that high. So it's like, and it's reasonably inviting. But then when they built the one next door, now it's like a 3-foot wall. And so you're kind of, if you're walking down the sidewalk, you've got like a class 1 row with 18 wheelers and everything. And then, like a 3-foot wall. And so it just feels like if you've got two-way traffic, it feels like you're kind of up against the road and you kind of like to, be inward a little bit. But I understand the conflict with the people patronizing the businesses, and we want all that. But my concern is now this one's, it drops another foot or two. And so how high is this wall going to be along the sidewalk? And I don't have a solution. But it would be nice if we could somehow do something so that the people walking on the street don't feel excluded. Anyway, and I understand, they're trying to line it up exactly, and it does look neat when you look and everything's at the same elevation from the, the building windows and everything. And, so I don't know if they can somehow drop it a little, but I mean, other cities deal with this, and it doesn't just all of a sudden as the road's going downhill, you just don't get these like walls. San Francisco's the extreme case, but it seems like there must be something that we can do because it's not hilly. It's just, as we noted, it's angled. And
a couple of, I'll just explain what I think I know about this. And there's a couple of competing things. One is the sidewalk is already pretty wide where it's flat, and the elevated piece is actually over parking. So if we really want to allow that parking to happen, that kind of sneaks its way in there. Mm-hmm. But there's a sense that since even if it's elevated, that it's still a pedestrian zone. It's not,
it's not a car.
So I hear what you're saying. It's an interesting perspective. I'm not sure that we've fully heard. I haven't heard that before, so I didn't think about it quite that way. But it is somewhat of a segregation issue.
Yeah,
and so I appreciate the comment because it's something to think about in there. While on the one hand you can look at, hey, this has some great opportunities. If a group of people feel like they're shut out of what we thought was being offered as an amenity, then we're missing something, and maybe there's a way that can be more integrated.
Exactly, and it's not the end of the world. It's just like how I was surprised when that got built. The raised area at next door, that it was that high, and a little disappointed. But I understand the challenges, and I don't, and I know you're trying to connect up, and is there any way to like lower the building a little and have like a slant, or I have no idea. I'm just bringing up the perspective, and maybe there's nothing you can do, and it's just a comment. But as we go down the hill on Park Street, we can't just keep making the wall bigger.
We're forgetting about that part of the sidewalk that's closest to the 18-wheelers when you're walking. I see, I mean, maybe like there's planters on the
Yeah.
lower part of the sidewalk
Yeah.
to protect, so the people walking on that have like a planter and then the 18-wheeler.
Yeah. You just want to feel like
Yeah.
there's something there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and so it doesn't have to be expensive and all of that. It was just something when I read the plans, it's like, oh, they're gonna do more of that. You know, and I think from the business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. And especially it sounds exciting that in between the two buildings of, possibly two restaurants, that sounds like a great idea. And, utilizing those spaces. So it's just, you got a lot of competing interests.
Yeah.
And that's where the challenge comes in. And I commend all of you and the developer for working with the city, trying to come up with the best plan for everybody. And again, I'm, in favor of the project and all of that. So I don't want you to think I'm not. It's just something I noticed.
Well, I think it's a worthy challenge for the designers, including the city, to participate in a way to see if there's something that can be done to more fully take advantage of that area and make it feel less owned and more public. Maybe, I don't know if the elevation changes, but there could be.
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of places that have done similar design and thought about, how wide is an ideal sidewalk and what happens on it. And there's a tremendous amount of research, and especially, in the last 15 years, where people have really started to try and reintegrate the pedestrian into the street life, in places where we'd forgotten, like, what's this little 5-foot piece of something next to a highway? That's not helping the pedestrian, that's freaking them out, So there are a lot of techniques out there. I don't know that we've explored half of them. This is one actually that is being implemented now. So maybe there's something that we can all think about or do some more research and figure out. Like, I know at one time there were any number of things like water features and other things that happen you can do with an elevation change that actually enhance the ability to experience what's
to
happening
draw
there.
it together.
Yeah. So, great question. Don't have any answers yet.
Yeah, well, I don't have any answers either. So anyway, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Rob, you got anything you want to contribute to this conceptual plan at this time?
No, it looks pretty straightforward, and all the questions that have come up have covered all my questions.
All right. Anybody else have?
Do you guys have
more?
any specific comments in regards to the actual architectural, the design of the building itself?
I don't. I appreciate the challenge of trying to provide exciting and opportunistic options for the residents. This is as much about what they're experiencing from their side of it than it is from what we're seeing from the outside. Buildings, even connected together and on the same block, are entitled to be different. I'm not looking for this to be a mirror image of the other one. I mean, I don't think that's fair. But again, I encourage the renderings to include the other buildings so that we can understand how they interact and what it's a fairly large sort of, canopy roof, brise soleil, whatever we want to call the cornice at the top. It used to be everybody had one. Now nobody has one. You guys have one. Help us out. How does that all work? Is it like along the south side? It's brilliant because you're gonna want that. But on the east side, the Park Street side, and especially on that corner where it's very prominent because it's wrapping, I think just help us understand how it works, what it's doing there, what it feels like up against the rest of the street facades going down Park Street, so that we get a full picture. Anybody else? Other than that, there's a nice variety of materials. I don't really have a comment on colors at this point. It's, way too early for that. And, those are pretty easy to change. I think the materials, as you get closer to the pedestrian zone, you're trying to use something more durable or more, resistant to, everything that's going on there. I think you've pretty much shown that. I think they were described as fiber cement panels, and then above that you have sort of fiber cement lap siding, which is all pretty common these days. The scale of the fiber cement panels on the first level are fairly small, in terms of just how big are they. So, when I looked at it the first time, I thought, well, is that block or is that speed? What is that? Some kind of a more masonry type thing for the scale, but it's described in the thing as fiber cement. So it'll be helpful, and it's all called out too. So if I wanted to go look it all up, I could kind of figure it out. But it'll be nice when you come in again. Maybe you've got samples or you've got a brochure or something. We can see what that really is. I haven't been a big fan personally of the, let's just change the facade material and start playing games with the outside of the building to make shapes and, quadrants and whatever else, throw a little corrugated stuff on there because that's popular. So I'm actually more excited to see you actually playing with the building volume and creating some real demarcation points. I find that goes a lot farther than just changing the color and material type. So I'm very supportive of that, and again, just looking forward to seeing sort of that develop and get refined. Anybody else?
Same.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else from staff or from the applicant that we didn't answer or cover? Thank you very much.
I was going to say I had a few slides about the long-term bike parking kind of examples that adjacent municipalities have used. But I mean, it sounds like only if you want it. Discuss this.
It's going to be tricky because it's in the requirements, right? So they're going to have to do something, and the question is, does it detract from something else they could do, or is it going to get left empty? Neither of which are ideal. So I'm just going to encourage us to somehow be able to.
We can provide parking in the basement for residents. It just might steal a couple parking spaces. I guess isn't that the purpose? So
yeah,
providing 50 some odd bikes, and you're assuming that they're not going to need the two parking spaces that we may have to steal to actually provide for 50.
And maybe
bikes.
They can be tucked in places where, because of vehicle swings or because of columns or because of corners or something, that it doesn't affect too much.
Yeah, and the other thing that we have done in the past is there are some products out there that we've used in some other buildings that allow for basically we'd have to, because there's 19 spaces underground, so there's not a parking space underground for everybody. So, but we can break it up to some extent where there is actually ways to provide secure bike parking for each individual space, right? So it actually would hang on the wall above their car in their space itself. So that's not 50, but it's maybe 19 out of the whatever, and then some. It can be mixed up. I mean, with the thing is, with 50 bikes, you don't put 50 bikes in a bike store. I mean, so it's a lot of bike parking, and so chances are it's not going to be in one centralized location. It's probably going to have to be somehow broken up.
Yeah, and that's entirely fine in terms of being in line with the LDC. It does not have to be in one spot. It does not have to be climate controlled. It does not have to be.
It's someplace you can walk.
It needs to be secure and dry.
Yeah.
All right. that's, I mean, that, Jennifer, do you have anything from staff comments?
No, not particularly. I was the one who added the comment about the color, but like you said, it's something that's very further down the line, not necessarily important right now. Just like it's a lot of grays and blacks, and one of the things like the
Yeah, no, I agree.
existing colors around the village center, lots of like reds, yellows, tans, things like that. And I'm not saying that this entire building has to match what's existing, but it's just kind of like very dark in comparison.
Yeah.
So, just a general comment, not a big issue at all. Everything else is okay, and like we said with the bikes, yeah, we've got a couple of just examples there where you can. We believe that in the amount of space that you've already allotted, those two parking spaces that are just slightly too small to be car parking spaces. There's a lot of possible configurations that will accommodate a lot of bikes. So it's a really great solution. I just wanted to compliment that. Yeah, that's the only thing.
All right. I'll close the hearing and off we go. Thank you guys. Oh, wait. We have to actually approve it, don't we?
Yeah.
Let's do that. I'll take a motion to approve
A
the,
motion to approve the conceptual plan based on staff comment. Or we should approve it?
I think that's fine. They're not, this is more for input and just to see that it, passes the straight face test and all that
So
kind of
just
thing.
a straight motion to approve the
I think
conceptual
so.
plan?
Yeah, we've given them comments and they have more material to provide for the next round, but at least we're all saying it works. It's close. Basically I didn't hear anything that wasn't a tweak in the big picture. I guess all of the parking and the circulation and the vehicle. Oh, the one thing I did have is just accommodations for deliveries and drop-offs and packages and Amazon and all that stuff, right? So knowing that it's already happening at the other building, I'm sure you guys have all the answers. Having a package truck stop on Park Street, probably not great, right? They probably wouldn't survive too long doing that unless it's midnight or 3 in the morning, but I bet they do it all from the back. So as long as you have an answer for the deliveries and the dumpsters and the package stuff,
We will.
yeah, good. Even if it's up or down, I don't, whatever you guys do is, as long as that's solved, we'll be fine. Yeah, good. All right, so motion to approve.
Again,
Did I get
motion
a
to
second out of
approve
this?
this conceptual
Oh,
plan.
second. I second that motion.
Appreciate you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Any further business on our agenda? Is there any, Chris, one thing that and Jennifer, one thing that would be helpful for you guys is to keep us aware of things that are happening around the community, or, where's the Crescent Connector, or what did Act 250 tell us next, or why did someone get an extra story, right? Like those developments that affect us that we don't necessarily track, or what. One of my big ones is when a project gets approved and then it has to still go through Act 250, which in the village center hopefully goes away kind of soon, or already did. But we've had projects that Act 250 made some conditions upon, and we didn't know about them because they happened so far after our project, and then we'll find out later that, well, we had to do this because Act 250 said so, and it feels like we want to know that stuff. Not saying anything's going on, but the one piece that we approved a long time ago is the hotel going up next to the Jolly Good. What is it? Good stuff. That was approved conceptually. I was on the planning commission. It was approved. we didn't have design control at the time, so it was mostly a site plan. It's going to be a footprint here and a footprint here. I have no idea what that's going to be, what it looks like. I mean, I think it's a hotel, but I don't know what it looks like, and that's kind of weird, you know, like now we do have design control, but that was already approved. So let's say you had, you know, some knowledge of what that was going to look like. I would love to see it. Right?
We actually we do have drawings, updated drawings for that. If you'd like to
How
see
about
it. Throw it
next
up on the
meeting
screen.
we'll look at them?
It's an extended stay suites too, is that correct?
It is, as far as I know, his plan is actually to run it on his own brand right now, Handy Hotels and Suites. But the one change that they came up with was just a change in the number of rooms based on how they arranged the internal doors. It wasn't actually a substantial change in terms of floor area or the capacity.
Yeah, we like to learn from the past, and you know what we learned was it's not really we're uncomfortable when we have to approve things and we don't have design control because we don't exactly know what's going to happen. And you know, we didn't get to know before, but now we do. And I'll come by the office at some point because I want to go back and see what we actually approved and then kind of look at what got built and see what, you know, was it possible for us to imagine that at the time? And, you know, did it work out the way we thought and so forth? Because I'm not really that comfortable.
Yeah, well, I have all of those on file, including the final drawings. If you ever want to see them.
Okay.
I
Good.
would like to see those. Can I come by or?
Yeah, you're welcome to. If you want to look at them right after.
All right.
Well, those are too.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I was about to say, someone's heading out the door.
I
Second.
know, Mike.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Rob.
Fine.